What you're seeing here are some scenes from previous bicycle touring Colombia episodes. We had battled extreme mountains, dangerous traffic situations on a very narrow shoulder, then descents at insane speeds, and not to forget, we also had flat tires. What was going to be the next big challenge, and were we even up for it? Were we ever going to reach our destination of Santa Marta on the Caribbean coast?
Hello and welcome. It's been a while, but now it's bicycle touring talk time again. My name is George Schlackick, and I love bicycle touring. About a month or so ago, I left off with episode 128 covering part of our Colombia tour from 2019. Barbara and I had reached La Dorada after a few pretty tough days of riding, first in mountainous terrain, then on a toll highway called La Ruta del Sol, that had some rolling hills and challenged us with brutally hot and dry climate. When we rolled into La Dorada, it was still relatively early in the day on January 13th, 2019. But we found a hotel and took some rest time in an air-conditioned room that had all the amenities we had been doing without for the past while. The following day was to be a rest day. But how can you just rest in a place like this? La Dorada is an amazing little town with so much going on. Eating out is very inexpensive by North American standards, and it's good. I got to eat some fresh fish, and we walked all over discovering things as we went along. The weather was nice and sunny, but a lot hotter than we'd been used to. When I found a cheap long-sleeve shirt at a local supermarket, I bought it because even with number 50 sunscreen, we were getting fried alive now, and the next day we were going to continue riding in that hot sun. I prefer a loose-fitting regular shirt, normally short sleeve like this one, over cycling jerseys on long rides in warm weather. You find that odd? Leave me a comment. Besides that, I bought a huge pack of tire patches and a spare tube in anticipation of more flat tires. In the afternoon, I spent some time cleaning and lubricating our bikes. We tried to spend the hottest part of the day in our room though, as tough as that was. The reward was a very comfortable evening. Again, we went out for a nice dinner followed by some ice cream. The next morning, we left the hotel relatively early. We had to backtrack all the way across town. And then across the Magdalena River to get back on the toll highway. Traffic was pretty busy, but our bikes sort of blended right in. A lot of locals here commute by motorcycle, and we also encountered some people on bicycles. Once on the highway, the ride was much different.
We left La Dorada, and the first 8 kilometers was because of the narrow shoulder and the heavy traffic. Now we're back on the highway, and it's like
Once again, we were on a modern 4-lane expressway that could have been anywhere in North America, except that the vegetation around us was different, and we even saw some wild parrots that were quite loud and therefore hard to miss. They're almost like crows, you know. We took another break for breakfast at a nice hotel restaurant complex before it got really hot.
all I'm missing is a tie, and I'll be ready for it. We just had a little snack here to get out of the sun. to enjoy the good food. All ready?
Yeah.
Then it was back to riding in the heat with little to no shade at all. The only way to stay hydrated were several breaks for cold drinks, which are not expensive here. Then we took a longer break for lunch at a typical truck stop restaurant, which is basically outside with the roof to provide shade. The ride was mostly on a very wide shoulder, and there were still hills here, but they were longer and less steep now, expressway style. Thankfully, traffic wasn't that busy. There were some two-lane sections though where the shoulder was much narrower, and ironically there was more traffic there. The thing with toll roads is that they usually bypass any communities that might be nearby. We had looked on the map the previous day and determined that we couldn't really plan for a destination. The nearest town that we could hope to reach was Puerto Boyaca, about 70 kilometers from La Dorada. Cycling that much in 35 degrees Celsius, or 95 Fahrenheit, wasn't easy. It turned out to be Barbara's longest cycling day ever up to that date. The sun was close to setting when we reached the gas station with restaurant and 24-hour hotel. Again, this was a typical truck stop about 2 kilometers outside of town. The place was very basic and a lot more simple than our luxury hotel in La Dorada, but we were grateful for it. The room was on the second floor, so we had to park our bikes downstairs, basically in the restaurant. It was normal here as there were some guys parking their motorcycles there too. The restaurant was wide open with red plastic chairs and tables. The food? The food was great. After supper, we went to our room. There was internet and we tried to do some route planning before watching a movie on Barbara's iPad. But we didn't last long. However, both our alarms were set for 5 a.m. the next morning. Getting up early was the best way to beat the heat and cover considerable distances before it became a torture. The route planning had been once again inconclusive. There just wasn't a whole lot on our side of the Magdalena River, but the toll road had been a good ride so far, and we were kind of stuck with it anyways. We just had to hope for the best and continue along. What could possibly go wrong? Were we ever gonna reach Santa Marta? It was still quite a long way off, but we were doing much better now than we had in the mountains, and the riding actually felt pretty safe most of the time, traffic-wise. Well, I'll hope you join me next week when I'll tell you about how this journey went on. If you haven't seen the previous videos in this series, please go to the playlist shown here. I know it's been a few weeks, but I'm committed to telling those stories. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it and ask me any questions you might have in the comment section. My goal is to build a reference that is useful to anyone planning a ride from Bogota to Santa Marta. It is an amazing journey. I hope you'll stay with me to enjoy what lies ahead. I'll see you soon.